Your management team has made a very important decision. They've decided to use HPG as a fuel gas in the metalworking operation. Not only is HPG an economical and productive fuel gas, it's also the safest. In fact, over the past few years, the use of HPG has increased more than any other fuel gas. Now, this is going to benefit the company, but it's going to be a lot easier on you. The key is using it effectively. We're going to take the next few minutes to show you some of the characteristics and properties of HPG. Now, this isn't an attempt to cover every safety issue and aspect of oxy-fuel processes. There are many publications and resources available for the safe use of oxy-fuel gas operations, and we urge you to read and follow those recommendations. We'll be listing a few at the conclusion of this presentation. And of course, follow the manufacturer's recommendations and instructions for specific equipment such as torches, regulators, hoses, and cutting and brazing tips. Let's start with the unique properties of HPG. HPG is a stable fuel, especially compared to acetylene. HPG is not limited to 15 pounds of pressure like acetylene. The unstable nature of acetylene also makes it susceptible to flashback and backfire. HPG has the highest vapor pressure of all available fuel gases, an important advantage in cold weather climates. This combination of high vapor pressure and its stable nature make HPG the practical fuel gas for large multi-flame heating heads, thermal flame spraying, and flame hardening. The difference between acetylene and HPG's flame temperature is nominal, while there is a 1,000 to 1,200 degree difference between acetylene and propane or natural gas. The high BTU content of HPG and high flame temperature makes HPG the sensible fuel gas choice. The properties of all fuel gases demand that they be treated with respect and handled properly. HPG, by its nature, is flammable and should be used as any flammable substance with great caution. This means that the work area should be clear of combustible materials and sources of ignition. HPG is also stored under pressure. This pressure is considered moderate when compared to high-pressure industrial gas products such as oxygen or nitrogen, although it can exceed 200 psi on a hot day. Storage of cylinders should be outside buildings, and containers should be installed according to NFPA 58 or any other authority having local jurisdiction. While HPG cylinders are similar to LPG cylinders, there are significant differences. A cylinder manufactured for HPG is manufactured to a higher pressure rating standard. This is due to the higher vapor pressure of HPG. Also, the relief valve is set to discharge at a different setting than propane cylinders. Your gas supplier is aware of these differences and will make sure cylinders are the correct specification. It's important that the proper regulator be used when using HPG. Be sure the regulator can deliver proper flow for the application required. Large multi-flame heating heads require high-flow regulators that can be obtained from your equipment supplier. While an acetylene regulator may work on many applications, being limited to 15 pounds of pressure might limit the operator from benefiting from HPG's feature of delivering high pressures. It's important that the proper type of hose is used with HPG. Current specifications state that grade T hose can be used with any fuel gas, including HPG. There is some confusion here because grade R hose is commonly sold for use with acetylene. Grade R is limited to acetylene only. If grade R is used with anything but acetylene, premature failure and equipment damage could result. Grade T is the hose that can be used with acetylene, HPG, or any fuel gas. Make sure you get the right hose when using HPG. Grade T hose. Take time to inspect your hoses. If they are worn or show excessive wear, replace them. Make sure the hose is of adequate size for your application. Remember, large heating heads require 3/8-inch hose, high flow regulators, and high capacity torches. To take full advantage of the unique properties of HPG, it's important that the proper tips be used. HPG performs best with a two-piece fine spline cutting tip. Not all two-piece tips are the same. HPG tips will have the internal splines recessed to a close tolerance to maximize the flame characteristics. Propane and natural gas tips are recessed at different tolerances and will not perform the same as tips designed specifically for use with HPG. It's extremely important not to use an HPG tip with acetylene. It's also important that the tip be the right size for the thickness of steel that's being cut. Follow the manufacturer's recommendations or refer to a tip chart available from your distributor. After properly attaching the hose, regulators, and torch, and the hoses have been purged, the proper size cutting tip should be installed and securely tightened with a wrench. For most hand cutting applications, the oxygen should be set to approximately 50 pounds of pressure. The HPG regulator should be adjusted to 10 pounds. A big difference from acetylene is both valves may be opened simultaneously when lighting the torch. First, open the oxygen preheat valve 1/8 of a turn. Then open the fuel gas valve 1/8 of a turn. Use a spark igniter holding to the side of the end of the tip and light the torch. With HPG, there's no need to light the fuel gas first and burn the soot like one must do with acetylene. Adjust the flame until there is an approximate 1/4-inch preheat flame. A properly adjusted HPG flame will have a 1/4 to 5/16-inch preheat flame. Depress the cutting oxygen lever and adjust the valves until proper flame length is again achieved. Let's examine different types of flames. First, let's look at a carburized flame. And this is what is commonly referred to as an oxidized flame. This neutral flame is the desired flame for most cutting with HPG. Again, note the 1/4-inch flame. Here's another look at the 3 flames, and again, the neutral flame is the desired flame for most cutting with HPG. When adjusting the flame, remember that to increase the length of the preheat flame, add more fuel. To decrease the length of the preheat flame, add more oxygen. Remembering these 2 simple steps will ensure that you get a properly adjusted flame on your torch. Also notice the area of reflected heat, commonly referred to as the star. If the star is too large, the reflected heat will become uncomfortable to the operator. This star can be reduced simply by adding preheat oxygen. When starting a cut on the edge of a steel plate, position the torch so all the preheats are on the plate. When the plate is cherry red hot, back off to the edge. Depress the oxygen lever completely and begin cutting. Cutting tips used for machine torches are designed for a higher cutting oxygen pressure. This results in faster travel speed and higher production. When using the high-speed cutting tips, adjust the oxygen pressure to approximately 80 pounds. After the torch is ignited and flame adjusted to the proper 1/4-inch preheat flame, open the cutting oxygen stream. Note the long, straight stream of linear oxygen flow. This oxygen stinger will be considerably longer than on a standard pressure or hand-cutting tip. After the proper adjustments are made, then proceed with the cutting operation. Note that when proper travel speed is achieved, the dross, sparks, and flame are at about a 15-degree angle ahead of the torch when viewed from beneath the plate. Gouging and washing tips are similar to cutting tips, except that they have 2 major design differences. They feature much larger and hotter preheats, so they may raise the temperature over a bigger work area. They have a larger and softer oxygen stream, so they may gouge out or wash away the workpiece. These tips are also the 2-piece fine spline design. Gouging tips are normally bent to facilitate gouging. When beveling, either by hand or on a machine torch, it is necessary to increase the fuel gas and build a fire to benefit from the high BTUs in the secondary flame. An oxidized flame is beneficial when beveling. This will increase the efficiency when beveling and assure the operator of a clean, slag-free bevel. One of HPG's features is its ability to effectively heat steel for a variety of applications. Multi-flame heating heads are manufactured for HPG that take advantage of HPG's stable characteristics. These heating heads can be used at higher pressures than acetylene and fully benefit from HPG's high BTU content. It's important that the proper size heating head be used. The HD2 is suitable for 90% of all heating applications. Remember, bigger is not necessarily better when selecting heating equipment. By using an HD2 or HD3, the need for manifolding cylinders, larger hose, and special torch is eliminated. And never attempt to use an HPG heating head with acetylene. The fact that HPG is a stable fuel and its ability to be used at higher pressures safely greatly reduces the tendency for backfire and flashback. Backfire occurs when ignited fuel gas and oxygen travel back through the torch or equipment. Backfire can be eliminated by these simple procedures. Adjust the oxygen and fuel gas regulators to the proper pressure. The regulator pressure settings for heating heads will vary depending on the size of the head and manufacturer. A small heating head may require 20 pounds for fuel pressure and 60 pounds of oxygen. A large heating head may require 40 pounds of fuel and 100 pounds of oxygen pressure. Be sure to consult the equipment manufacturer's recommendations for your specific application. It's important to light the fuel first, then open the oxygen valve slightly. Then alternately open each valve slightly, keeping the properly adjusted flame. The cone length should be 5/8 to 3/4 of an inch. Keep adding fuel gas and oxygen alternately until one of the valves is fully open. This will ensure that ample gas flow is achieved and will prevent starving the torch. Backfire can also occur when the equipment is in bad condition or is plugged. Make sure all equipment, including cutting tips, are clean and in good working condition. Also, current codes and laws require the use of a device that will prevent reverse flow, fire, and excessive pressure where any fuel gas is used with oxygen in piping systems. This can be achieved through the use of an hydraulic flashback arrestor. These devices or similar devices are required when piping is used for the gas distribution. Consult your gas supplier or National Fire Protection Association Pamphlet 51 for a recommendation of the type best suited for your application. Let's go over some important things to remember when using multi-flame heating heads. Be sure the hose, regulators, and torch are of sufficient capacity for the heating head being used, and do not use any larger heating assembly than you really need. Make sure the proper pressures are set at both the oxygen and the fuel gas regulator. Make sure the equipment is in good condition and not dirty, plugged, or worn. Manifold cylinders, if necessary, to ensure positive back pressure on torch and head. Always consult the manufacturer's recommendations and be familiar with your equipment specifications. Be sure to gradually adjust torch until one of the gas valves is fully open. Keeping these procedures in mind will keep your heating application safe and productive. The use of HPG for a variety of brazing applications has increased in recent years. The development of brazing tips and nozzles specifically for HPG has greatly improved the acceptance of HPG for brazing applications. This convenient 1-pound disposable cylinder can replace the MC-sized acetylene cylinder used by many refrigeration technicians and plumbers. The 1-pound disposable cylinder is the equivalent of 2.5 MC acetylene cylinders. Whether completing a task or shutting down at the end of a shift, it's important to follow certain procedures to ensure a safe workplace. Turn the fuel gas valve off first. Then turn the oxygen valve off. After the torch valves have been closed, turn off the cylinder valves and back off the regulator adjustment knobs of both regulators. Now crack the oxygen valve on the torch and bleed off any oxygen remaining in the hose and torch. Next, do the same with the fuel gas valve on the torch, making sure this is done in a well-ventilated area away from sources of ignition.
Using HPG as a fuel for your cutting and welding operation can be safe and economical. Just remember to consider these important points.
Maintain a neat, orderly workplace free from combustibles and have adequate ventilation. Wear proper clothing, footwear, and eye protection. Maintain all equipment in good condition. Make sure all equipment used with oxygen is free from oil, grease, and contaminants. Follow manufacturer's recommendations for use of the equipment. For additional information regarding safety in oxy-fuel welding and cutting applications, we recommend the following publications.
If you have any questions, be sure to contact your local HPG distributor. He'll be glad to explain why this is the most productive, economical fuel gas in the business.